but which has been hit by a wave of crime. Farmers have had equipment stolen, drugs dumped on their property, and even pigs killed with crossbows. It's the sort of problem that has affected many rural communities. Earlier, I spoke to Metcalf-Fisher, External Affairs Director at the Countryside Alliance, who told me more about the farms being targeted by criminals in this way.
These places are typical British villages, and a lot of people, I think, don't think that they're centres of crime. But, from this report, the Telegraph story goes into huge details about some of the shocking crimes, actually, from pigs being shot dead with crossbows, joyriders who are high on drugs stealing tractors, all the way to cannabis being dumped in fields, leaving farmers with the mess of having to clean it all up. And you've basically got a village that's really on the front line of a fight against some joyriders and people, people out to just be general nuisances, but actually organised crime. And that's what we're seeing across the countryside, is criminals that know very much what they're doing, are scoping out little villages in the dead of night and working within a team, I guess, to come back and basically rampage through the villages and mainly target farms. We know that every year we farmers lose millions of pounds worth of machinery. Some of the stories that I hear from farmers that I speak to are shocking.
And it does sound as though this is a community. It should be a lovely, friendly village. It has a great reputation. And now they're pretty much under siege from the scale of crime on all kinds of different levels. As you say, pigs shot with crossbows, but also people joyriding, stealing quad bikes and so on.
Yeah, it is. And I'm sure the villagers will be the first to say that they want their community back and that they're going to fight and they're not going to back down and run away from criminals and cower in fear. But this is a problem we are seeing nationally. I mean, we at the Countryside Alliance carry out a rural crime survey. And while we know that rural crime is a problem, what I'm really keen to know is how people feel. And we're talking about some 97% of people living in the countryside fearing rural crime. They fear crime. And I think, if you were to attribute 96% of a community fearing crime, you probably link that to a big city or should we say, an area of a city that, is known for crime, not the countryside, not an idyllic little community like this.
And is part of the problem that these are often quite remote, perhaps not very close to large urban centres, and maybe don't have the same levels of police out and about that you might have elsewhere?
Yeah, that is a big part to it. We spend a lot of our time dealing with county by county forces, and no police force doesn't want enough officers on the beat to tackle crime. Right, but they have resource issues, they have financial issues that come with that. And obviously the countryside is just becoming more and more vulnerable. Durham University actually carried out a study recently which found that the extent of the organised crime actually crosses borders. So a tractor can be stolen, or a piece of agri-machinery can be stolen at 2:00 in the morning in, say, Suffolk. And by the time the police have actually arrived to investigate, that machinery is long gone. It's on mainland Europe and making its way more often than not to Eastern Europe. And this is something that we see all the time. I mean, I speak to farmers regularly who, you ask them the standard questions, do you have CCTV? And they just laugh. They say, yeah, we have CCTV, but it doesn't do anything. The only benefit we have there is we can watch the person steal from our farm. We are dealing with sophisticated criminals. In the case of the village we've discussed, there are joyriders and antisocial behaviour, but the real dark problem is the organised crime.
And of course, if you're
somewhere like that, if you have a farm or a remote rural property, by its very nature, it's difficult, isn't it, to make that secure?
It is indeed. And, with our surveys revealed that more and more people are turning to, putting in guard dogs and security firms to patrol their properties at night, because the CCTV, as I said earlier, the police there's not a lot they can get out of it. But we're constantly thinking of ways to ensure that the communities and the police are better connected, because there are some really good rural police forces, or rural teams, I should say, and one of the methods of communication that we're really pushing to see pushed out across the country is WhatsApp and instant communication tools, because those tools enable really isolated communities to relay intelligence to crime teams immediately. And it really helps with that connection, because so many rural communities feel a million miles away in so many ways to the police. And there is this sense that's growing, it's not getting better, that the police aren't really there for them. I mean, one of the most shocking statistics from our crime survey this year, Carol, was that 32% of crimes that farmers reported to us, they didn't report to the police. They just didn't want to. They just didn't feel that the police would be there to help them. And 48% of people who did actually report a crime were dissatisfied with the response and are likely not to do so again in the future. And that is shocking.
And as you say, if people aren't reporting crimes, it's difficult to get accurate figures. But is it your sense that this is a problem that's getting worse?
Yeah, it is. It is definitely getting worse, and it's not just anecdotal. It's there in the figures that we produce. The National Farmers Union are producing. There are 22 active organised crime gangs that we know of carrying out rural crime in the UK, and those numbers have grown in recent years. And we're talking about, I think it's about £11.7 million of agricultural machinery and vehicle theft, rising by 29% from last year alone. So we know it's getting worse, and it's just now a case of working all together with the police to find the way forward, because we can't have agricultural machinery and vehicle theft rising by 29% from last year alone. So we know it's getting worse, and it's just now a case of